Hi, I'm Janice Banther from Birth Behind Bars. Today we're going to be talking about, is it ever really appropriate to cry in jail? Jail is like a whole nother different world, completely different than what you're used to being in. When you go in that first door and that door slams behind you, if you're thinking about the things in your mind and you've been doing this for a while, sometimes that first door slamming, maybe it takes a second door, you realize, yep, I'm back at jail. This is a different world, and the different noises that you hear, the different sounds that you hear, the yelling, the screaming, because the pods are never quiet. There's always people yelling and screaming, and sometimes it's just the smells of just something that's been institutionalized, where there's a lot of people living in one place. Sometimes the smells can really get to you. It's a different world. So things are so different. You just pick out almost any one thing, and especially for a female, it's easy to want to be able to cry at that. But can you do that? You really can't. You can't cry. When you're with an inmate and they're talking to you in a childbirth class, maybe she's talking to you about sexual abuse that she's had since the age of 2 and continued on till her teen years. Maybe she's telling you that because of being a prostitute, she has no idea who the father of this baby is. Or that she's had so many boyfriends that she's not sure who the father of the baby is, but she might be able to narrow it down once the baby's born just by knowing what race the child is. The stories that you hear are stories that you just don't normally hear with your normal population that you deal with on a day-to-day basis as a doula on the outside. It's a whole different world. So are you allowed to cry with her? No, you can't. When we go to jail to teach our classes, thankfully in our team, we're able to go with 2 people at a time. And that works out so well because usually when one person is having a difficult time holding it together because of stories they've been told by other inmates, or else just something that might have triggered something, the smells or the noises and the yelling, the other person is able to be strong. It just always has worked out that way, which is very thankful. And that when we get out to the car, one person is falling apart and maybe crying, and the other doula they're able to debrief right there and talk about it and be able to help each other out and be able to understand why they heard what they heard and be able to put it in different places in their mind, so that way they're able to do this. And I think it's going as teams that makes a huge difference. If you go one-on-one and not have somebody else with you, you're not able to debrief with somebody right away about situations that you heard in the jail. And when you go to the hospital at a birth, it's a little different. She can touch you there, and you are allowed to, but you can't talk about what you normally talk about to women when you're a doula with on the outside. You can't talk about your private life. You can't talk about where you live. You can't talk about children's names. All those things that you normally talk about in early labor, you can't talk about with her. We had an inmate not too long ago that was in jail most of her pregnancy. So we really got to know her very well. Towards the end of her pregnancy, she decided to surrender her baby for adoption. So we had talked with her about this. She had talked about the birth, the adoptive family that was going to be parenting her child. She was very excited about her decision, and she was very strong about her decision. When she had her baby, obviously she was going through a lot of hormonal changes and just knowing this is the last time she's going to be seeing her baby. We spent the whole day with her, and actually it took 3 doulas to help her through this time. One of us was with her for her birth and for quite a few hours afterwards. Another one of us came and stayed with her till later on that night. Another one came and stayed 2 more days with her until she signed the papers. And she went through every single emotion possible, from laughing to crying uncontrollably to singing to her baby, talking to her baby, unwrapping the blanket and counting her fingers and toes and touching her body all over as if she's trying to remember every single thing she could about that child, knowing she'd never see this child again. She'd see it in pictures. It was an open adoption. She'd see the baby in pictures, but probably physically be able to touch that child again, I don't think that was in the paperwork as far as I remember. So it was very difficult for her. And each one of us, we all discussed it later, how we had to hold it together. And it was hard for us as she was crying and just pouring her heart out. And we had to sit there and be with her and help her through her labor, help her through her postpartum, and not fall apart ourselves. Each one of us, we found out that when we got in the car, each one of us did cry. And we had to really talk to each other a lot afterwards to try and figure out what's the best thing to do. Why is it important for you not to cry? The reason is it's not about you. It's about her. If you cry, the attention's drawn to you. If you're listening to her and letting her pour her heart out, then it's all about her. And that's why you're there, is to help her. Yes, it's hard not to cry sometimes. It's hard to hold it in. You bite the inside of your lip. You bite your tongue. You think of something else in your head just for a couple of seconds while she's talking to try and get your train of thought back to where you're not crying or wanting to cry. And then you listen to her. She needs you at that moment, and she needs you to listen to what she has to say. And she can't say it if you're the one that's crying. She can't talk to you about the things that she really wants to share with you if you're the one that's crying. Remember, it's all about her. It's not about you. I hope what I've said here has been a help to you. This is speaking really from what we experience in the jails that we work in. So it's always different depending upon where you're working, in what state, in what county, in what jail, in what prison. But these are experiences that we have. I hope this video has been able to help you. If you have any comments that you'd like to add or email us, please feel free to do so. All the information is just down below here at the video. Love to hear from you. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye-bye.